Well, welcome back everybody. Sorry about those technical difficulties. It is part and parcel of broadcasting out here in the bush. Sometimes things go a little awry, and well, we're back and everything is good. As you can see, I am driving now, which means that I have left Thandi and Cub, and so I've left them to their own devices. It was just too thick and I didn't really want to distress them in any way whatsoever, so now we're just bumbling about. Now, for those of you that have just joined us, that have maybe missed what's happened this morning, welcome, firstly. Secondly, remember #SafariLive on Twitter or YouTube chat to ask questions and just to comment on anything that you may see or want to say. We're happy to hear anything that you've got to say to us. Now, we had a epic morning so far. So we started the morning with Thandi and Cub, which is fantastic. So they have been reunited and are absolutely fine, and both of them were walking around together. It was an epic start. And then we had a crazy start in the Mara with a leopard on a giraffe kill that Ralph had, and then there's been lions and all kinds of other interesting things. So it's been a really good start to the day, an absolutely wonderful one. Now, while we've just kicked off and kind of got back into the swing of things, there are some tracks here. I'm just going to remind all of you that we are going to be doing some TV shows shortly. So to celebrate that, we are going to have TV shows from the 4th of February until the 8th of February at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And remember, that is your chance to participate in Safari Bingo, which means that you could win a trip for two out here in Africa, which is quite amazing. So to find out all the details about that, remember to go to natgeo.com/Safari Live to be able to read up on the rules and regulations and all those kind of things and any information that you need to know about it. Right, now the reason I've stopped is because, do you see what I see, Fergus? You do. Yes, there is a track for a male leopard there. There we go. Hello, male leopard track. Where have you come from and what are you doing here? Now I wonder, is this maybe our little green-eyed boy Tumba that has been meandering about on the fire break? He was last seen on Triple M going southwards, and we're not very far from Triple M, and this is going in a easterly direction, back to where he normally hangs out. So I wonder if these are not worth following. I think I'm going to follow them. They're not the freshest of tracks. They look like maybe from last night, early before the rain came down. So I'm going to try and just see where they go, see what happens with them. While I do that, let's go across to Steph, who's got down and dirty in the sand and has got some very interesting little creatures.
So one of the nemesises of Mara is the fact that within our camp we've got a colony of the East African safari ant, or the siafu. Now, the Dorylus ants, which the siafu belong to, that's the genus Dorylus, are common even in South Africa, except that this is the size of the Dorylus ant in South Africa. They are minute, virtually microscopic. There's my thumb just as a reference point, but share the same characteristics of living in massive colonies. You're looking at 15 million individuals in one colony. And they move through areas, stripping it of insect resources and chasing the insects away. And then we'll move on once the food source has basically been depleted in that particular area. And they move on these pathways. They create pathways very similar to how the Romans created the roads, so that they can move easily from one place to another. And they keep the roads fastidiously clean. And you can see where there is a block, for instance, where there's some obstacle that they can't move out of the way. There's an ant there that's moving a stone out of the way for the colleagues. These are all female ants, by the way, and they're all blind. And you can see they dropped that stone out of the way. Here's another one going to move another rock out of the way so that the flow of ants is as quick and as unimpeded as possible. She decided to drop it. Now they're probably moving colonies here from one place to another. And just have a look at the speed. Now this has remained unabated while you were off air for those few minutes. It has not stopped the flow of ants. And they're following pheromone trails around. And I don't see them carrying any egg cases, so it's basically just from feeding areas to the nest. And just look at that. I find them absolutely fascinating. Now, Carol, you'd like to know if these ants bite. They absolutely do bite, Carol. They're fearsome. They also have a sting, and so they can bite and they can sting, and they swarm over things. So if I were to introduce my finger here, for instance, you'll see how they very quickly will come up onto my finger. Not in this particular case, I wonder why. There we go. You can see that one immediately swarms up onto my finger and starts to bite whenever they can. The soldiers in particular are vicious. There's no soldiers here. I don't know where the soldiers are in this particular column. You might find because they haven't been disturbed that the soldiers hadn't come out. The soldiers would be purpose-bred, just defensive ants, much more developed or well-developed jaws, better developed stings, and a more powerful musculature as well. These are just workers. And now, what is quite interesting is that they've formed a blockade across the pathway here. So we'll stand up and show you how big this particular blockade is, and it's actually stopped the traffic of other ants as well. Have a look here. You'll see here's an ant here that's trying its best to get across this flow of ants. And what is quite interesting is that these ants are obviously trying to forage in this area and are being prohibited from doing so because of this moving column of army ants. But they've managed to find themselves a bridge across this flow of ants. And the bridge is here. And one ant that came through has now left a pheromone trail over that bridge. And we've noticed that these ants are using this bridge more and more across this particular column. And so rather than trying to wade across this river, this living river of ants, they're coming across this bridge in ever increasing frequency. Here comes one now. Let's see if this one uses the bridge. No, he's decided to turn away. No, still following around. Let's see if he uses it. There we go. Yeah. And across. Lisa Chi, you'd like to know why they're moving in different directions? It's because they're moving from feeding areas, carrying food from one place to another, or at least being full themselves, to the nest. So they have a common nest, and they'll be moving from. Oh, this one's being attacked. Oh, just got out of the way. Well, no, didn't get through. No, you're not going to make it. So basically, I've noticed with the ants in the camp in Mara is that they split up the colony into a variety of different foraging groups, and they move from a central nest, and these different arms basically move from the food to the nest, and not necessarily carrying food. The reference material that I've read says that these ants feed on the move. So the ants that find the food get a chance to eat. When they're full, they return to the nest and take over some caretaking duties, while ants that are hungry then go on the foray and basically go and find some food. Unlike other ants, which will find food and then bring it back to the nest, these ants do not do that, and it's mainly because they live in such massive numbers that would be uneconomical. And so in this particular case, you probably find that this arm of this nest, they've moved from this area to another, and some ants are going back to go and feed because they're hungry. Other ants are returning to the nest to go and look for duties. But what is interesting is if you have a look over here, you'll notice that the direction is very specific. The ants on the outside are going one way, the ants on the inside are going the other way. That's not chaos. In other words, there is an order there that is just spectacular to watch. You see that? Inside ants moving one way, outside ants moving the other. So these are the South African safari ant, for lack of a better word, but the more correct thing, if you want to go and research about them, they are truly magnificent, is Dorillus is the genus. And you'll find some prime examples of them on the net. All right, we're going to be sending you all the way north up to my colleagues in the Mara at the moment. I'm sure they've got something interesting to show you.
Well, thanks, Steph. And everyone, we've been sitting here by the hyena den for quite a while now, and there's been all sorts going on. The little cubs have been running up and down. There's 3 adults in the area at the moment. They've also been involved in all little greeting ceremonies and verbalizing or vocalizing. And so there's been all sorts happening. Quite exciting, nice and early here in the morning. Everybody out and about. And the adults walking up and down, then they lie down, and then they get up and they walk around and do a little bit more greeting. As you can see, the little cubbies also doing a bit of greeting and playing and dragging each other around every now and then. They've also been over trying to chew my tires, so I've just had to tap on the vehicle and get them away a little bit. Don't want them getting too used to that. Don't want them biting anything on the vehicle, because if they get used to that, especially once they grow older and they've made it a habit, well, we're going to be getting lots of flat tires. So we just try and keep them out of that little habit. And also sometimes they go underneath the vehicle and they start biting on tubes and pipes, and so not a good idea for us just to let them create a habit around vehicles like that. But nonetheless, they're still all enjoying the nice early morning in the fresh air. Lots of energy. You can see those darker ones and different age groups as they start turning lighter and getting more spots. Those are the ones that are a little bit older. It normally starts around the head area and then moves down the body. Now, Carol, you were wondering why they're different colors. Carol, when they're born, they're almost pitch black. And we actually saw a very young one when we first found this hyena den, and Mommy was carrying it around by the head. But I think we're not seeing it because it's actually now grown a little bit. They grow very fast, and then they start lightening up around the head area, and then they slowly but surely get that lighter color with the spots all over them, but they go actually lighter than the adults. So they go from very dark to very light with the spots, and very fluffy and very long legs, and then they start to fill out, and as they start to fill out, they also then start to get that little tawny color from the head along the back. And then they're not as fluffy as well as the sort of teenager type age that they become. Very gangly and out of sorts. Their legs are too long for their body. There's none of those around at the moment. They might have followed one or two of the adults out hunting, because once they get to that stage, it is possible for them to go with some of the adults. But I'll show you when I see one. These are all very young cubs, but not newborns, because they've all got that little lighter color around the head. But even at this age, it's incredible, because they are already going around marking little anal pastings on all the grass around. And yes, as soon as one does it, well, then like animals do when they are territorial, they sort of go around in a circle, and everybody's got to get their little bit of paste on the same spot. Now, that raising of the leg, that's also a bit of a greeting ceremony. Trying to work out where you are in the hierarchy and constantly re-establishing that. Now, Chatty Meg, you're saying that I'm going to become a member of this clan soon if I keep coming here. Well, Chatty Meg, I'm hoping so. So I'm just trying to put myself out there and hanging around enough and hoping that I'll be accepted in the clan. But for now, I think I need to just be nice to them and just hang around, and we'll see what happens, eh? But I don't know if I'm quite keen on the whole ceremonial greeting, raising the leg and sniffing of the genital parts. I don't think we'll get down that road very easily. So we'll leave it to the hyenas themselves. They are very, very fascinating creatures, but for humans, I think they can find them rather strange sometimes. And in the past, they have also really thought that hyenas were hermaphrodites because of the females having male genitals, or seemingly like male genitals. And so in the past, humans did think that the females were able to change sex into males, and they also thought that in difficult times, they that females were able to change into males if they needed to, so that they could, if there were no males present, that they could then continue. But it is not true. That's was all a fallacy because of the both sexes having penises. And that's obviously why there was a lot of confusion in the past. But now it is known that the females just have a lot of testosterone, more than the males, which is quite unusual in normal populations. But there's nothing much normal about hyenas, I can tell you that. But they are ferocious hunters, opposed to what a lot of people think and what the belief is. They hunt probably 50% of what they eat. Now, Jem, you want to know if they drive the elderly pack members out or clan members out, or do they allow them to stay inside? Well, it's normally, it depends on where you stand in the hierarchy, because if you're up on the topper rungs of the pyramid, well, you can pretty much do whatever you like. And so it's the lower down on the hierarchy that would always suffer a little bit more. But it's not about age at all. It's really where you are born, and your line or your family line, where exactly you will be in the hierarchy. It's not the same as like the mongooses per se, where their hierarchy is age-based. Look at that. What has she got? She got a hide of something. Ooh, I wonder if that's from a hippo. It does look like it. It's got a real old piece of leather there, and that looks like a piece of hippo leather. I wonder if that was because a couple of days ago they were looking very, very fat. I wonder if they actually took down a hippo. But now this is going to be interesting, because she's obviously brought it over for the youngsters to get a bit of a piece of meat, and they look like they're attacking it there. But very interesting around food with hyenas, because they are, once again, extremely hierarchical, and around the food, you wouldn't be allowed to eat before a higher ranking individual. So even with the little youngsters, it's been very interesting, because we've been watching these youngsters with these three adults, and there was obviously one of the adults was more dominant than the other, and with its cub, the little cub was also dominant over the adult. So let's watch here around food and see how they react. Always notice when those tails go up like that, that's sort of a very heightened form of being. The tails are up, you know that they're either fighting, they're eating, or they're chasing something. So very interesting. And when the tail goes up, you want to be watching hyenas. All sorts going on now. They're still all coming over towards that hide, and it seems there's a couple more of the youngsters or the little cubs also emerging now from the hole or the den. There's a lot of them around, but you can see there's only one or two of these little cubs that are actually having a full go at this piece of leather. Looks like it's from a hippo, but the others need to wait their turn, and if they don't, they're going to get really attacked by their dominant siblings and possibly even the adult. There's no tolerance, no stepping out of line in this royal political system. Wildflower, you're saying that skin will be good for chewing on. Absolutely, Wildflower, and I'm glad that they've got themselves something to chew on there rather than my tires. And they were also having a go at my mud flaps, which look very much similar to that piece of hide that they've got there. So I just had to tap on the side of the car just to back them off a little bit. But I'm glad now that they've got a nice thick piece of skin. The one there is not interested in the hide anymore, wants to have a drink from mum. So we've got feeding on the hide and drinking at mum right in the same spot. Very interesting, hey? Lovely to be here with them, doing all their sort of daily things, and with all the little cubs, and now with the hide being brought over. Oh, there we go. You see, there's a little bit of a squabble there. Somebody's stepping out of line. Just getting told where they are, what they should be doing, and whatever they were doing, they shouldn't have been doing it. Beautiful looking female, that. I suppose beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but I find hyenas fascinating and also good looking in their own way. It's a little bit like a warthog. It's almost like only a mother could love that face. But at the same time, they do have their own unique way. And that's always, for me, one of the most interesting parts of hyena behavior, is the real greeting ceremonies. So everyone, I don't think I'm going to be going anywhere just for the next while, because there's so much happening here. But don't go anywhere. We will be right back. I'm pretty sure not too long. But while we do that, let's head you on over to Noel in South Africa with the Nkuhumas.
Well, we've managed to move a whole 50 meters, so about a whole 50 yards. We haven't gone very far. Everyone's still a little bit lazy from that snack that they managed to get last night. And there's been slight action, but nothing to write home about. But it is just nice to be with one of our favorite prides of lions, Nkuhumas, here live in the Sabi Sands. And don't forget, everybody, hashtag Safari Live on the Twitter or on YouTube chat. And we love your questions and comments, so send them through, And we've got a little bit of grooming that's happening here, so hopefully she'll get up and you'll be able to see her size. The Nkuhuma lionesses are not the largest lionesses I've ever seen, but they're decent sized. Proud Cat Mama, it is healing up. You're asking about the injury that's on this lioness, and she's just over to our right-hand side here. There, you can kind of see it there. It is healing up, but it's in that funny little spot, so when she lies down on her belly, it sort of folds up into her haunches there, and then when she gets up, obviously it opens up again. But we've been watching her over the past few days, as the Nkuhumas have been around a lot, and she doesn't struggle with that back left foot. She's obviously hunting with the rest of the pride, because they managed to get that snack, so I think it looks worse than it actually is for her. And it's just going to stay irritated until it properly scabs over, and it's going to be hard to properly scab over in the area that it is. But I'm not too worried about it. Doing some nice yoga stretching there. These lions have been so lazy that myself and Kruger have been sitting here going, oh, it would be so nice to cuddle up, and they keep grooming each other. All right, well, lions. Lions are found throughout Africa, and most of the population numbers are sort of sub-Saharan Africa and down. Their numbers are not as good as we would like. They had about 200,000 in the wild 100 years ago, and now we're down to around 20,000 in the wild. So that's a very large drop. And a lot of it has to do with loss of habitat because of human growth, and also because of things like highways and logging areas, and basically making these little tiny pockets and islands of wilderness, which makes it very difficult to propagate a species when you're stuck in sort of one area. Now, lions can move across highways, and logging areas are not necessarily the best places, but it's not that they can't be there. It's just harder because that means that their prey species are not there, and then when you get highways splitting up areas and then human settlements around them, again, that's going to push away prey species. And any organism in the habitat in which they live needs to have shelter and food. They need their resources to be able to survive. So when their resources are pushed out, that's what then pushes them out into smaller and smaller pockets. And then you end up with scenarios where when these pockets become too small, the genetics actually can't survive. So we've talked about how lions can inbreed up to about 10 generations. Nature doesn't really let them get up sort of towards 10. It can happen, but anything past that, you're going to start seeing difficulties. You're going to get a pool of genetics whereby you could have a pool of genetics that the strong material, the good material's there, but when it gets too saturated with the same genes, you then tend to have crop ups of sort of, three-legged, and we as humans, what is that called, Gerd, when you cut yourself and you keep bleeding? Hemophilia. I think that's what it's called. And that's from too many different pools of genes, too many similar genes coming together. You get symptoms like that. And so it makes it very difficult then for that population to survive. It also makes it difficult because let's say that population is hemmed in by a lot of human populations. Mange comes from domesticated animals and can affect, as we know, it affected the Styx pride, another one of our prides here. It can affect wildlife. And if your genetic pool is too concentrated, and if you are unable to be as healthy as you need to be due to lack of prey species, something like mange coming in can have a large detrimental effect. So there's all these different aspects that play up with it. And then last but not least, you also have a poaching issue when it comes to wild lions. So there's a difference between hunting and poaching. Hunting is legal, poaching is illegal. And a lot of what happens with the lions with poaching is they're poached specifically for their bones to be used in traditional medicines in countries, some countries in the Asia part of the world. And then also when you put out snares for subsistence poaching, so those subsistence poachers are looking for things like wildebeest and bushbuck and kudu for meat to eat, you'll end up with something like a buffalo or a rhino or you name it getting also stuck in there. And I've personally seen lion and leopard getting stuck in those snares. Sometimes we're able to get to them and help them, but a lot of those times it's not possible. Then you also end up with scenarios when you have too many humans around where lions then, when you've got open ecosystems where lions are now interacting with the humans in a way that is detrimental to the humans. So meaning that they're attacking cattle or goats or possibly humans themselves. And then of course humans also want to survive. And so there's a huge negative impact and interaction that way. Now that's not to be said that there isn't a lot of efforts happening to make everything a bit better. Molly, you'd like to know, since we were talking about diseases and things, does this little cub still have a cough? Molly, I haven't seen this cub with a cough, but I'm assuming that you have seen this cub with a cough. I haven't seen it cough today or the past few times I've seen them. So I'm going to say no for now. Yes, but they really are being energy efficient at the moment. This is what we call a flat cat sighting. Lou saying to me she likes how I call them energy efficient instead of lazy. Well, Lou, I believe energy efficiency is a type of laziness. I just think it's a better way to put it. I'm sure all of you would agree, but I think maybe we should all start using that when we have a lazy day. We'll just call it energy efficiency. Shelley, you want to know how far I'm sitting from the pride? Shelley, I'm about 20 meters from them. About 20 yards. And they are happy as can be. And obviously not concerned with us in the slightest. Lions are very good at, as long as we respect their space bubble, they're very good at letting you just be around. They're also very good at tuning out sort of my voice and the vehicle sound, not that the vehicle's on right now, and the vehicle sounds, and still carrying out on about their business. I've had a few interactions on foot that are a little bit different with lions. That's because of our predator vision. Our eyes are in front rather than on the side of the head. And also we stand on two legs so we can look a little bit aggressive and imposing. But I've also walked into lions, sort of bumped them on while tracking them, and they were behind some thick bushes, and they just sort of stick up their head and go, okay, well, as long as you're there, I'm fine. And sometimes you come up to them and they're lying like this. If the wind's right, they'll never know that you're there and then have no reaction at all. But as you can see, they're just doing what lions do, which is sleeping. We had another vehicle that joined us for a few minutes, but obviously with these sleepy lions, they're gonna carry on and look for something else. Now, Tristan, my friend, I think there's something that emits from your beard that attracts all of these leopards, because I believe I just heard that you have found another one. So let's head on over to him so that you can have a look.
Indeed we have. We found Mr. Hosana, who is sitting atop his favorite termite mound at Twin Dams, and I think it's his tracks that we found all the way back on the other side, because they were going up and down. There's also tracks for Shadow and Cub as well in that area, and so luckily enough we've managed to find him sitting on top of the mound, which is very, very nice as well. Now I want to just try and see if I can reposition slightly Ferg, because otherwise we're going to get his bum, and he's got lots of impalas around that he's been busy watching. But let's try and see if we go around, we might get a really nice view of his face from the other side, which is always quite nice. So we literally just bumped into him about 2 seconds ago, and like I said, we saw tracks going in and out around Shabamu, and they were telling me that Hosana was coming this way yesterday afternoon. So I thought, well, let's do the fire break, and we picked up then the tracks of Shadow and Cub also coming over, and him kind of going back and forth over the fire break, which is a typical Hosana plot and ploy. He kind of likes to walk like that. He kind of weaves his way over roads, and so we then just followed them all the way down and then got here towards Twin Dams, and well, another leopard. Exciting stuff. Ferg, well done. Ferg was the one that actually spotted him on the mound, so Ferg definitely gets the first prize. Let's see, Ferg, how is this? This looks like it might win for us. Yes, stormy sky, beautiful male leopard. It's not quite the same as his whole body, but I just like the fact that he's facing this way, and so it's quite nice just to see his head and his silhouette against the dark, stormy, gloomy morning that we've got. But it seems as though Hosana is going to start sleeping now, because, well, he's first perked himself up so that we could find him, and then now it's going to be time to have a bit of a nap. Oh boy, has it been a long night. I believe he's been all over the place. Apparently he spent the vast majority of his day yesterday quite close to Little Gari camp, and was chasing things around there, and then he's now decided to come up this way and just pay us a little visit and just show us that he's doing just fine. And what amazes me with this leopard is, I've just seen him now standing up, is that he is getting absolutely massive. He's seriously in great condition, and he's a big boy. He's starting to kind of get that dewlap now, and he's really bulking up, and so it's impressive to see him. I don't see him nearly as often as we would like or that we would want, and yet when you do see him, you kind of get floored by how big he is. Stubby, you say you haven't seen a Hosana in a while, but he's still looking fantastic. Well, I'm not sure when the last time we saw Hosana was. I don't know. Maybe one of you can let me know. It must have been. I certainly haven't seen him since I've been back from leave, and he hasn't been around. But I don't think it was all that long ago. But he is looking fantastic. He is such a beautiful specimen, and he's a cat that is, you know, obviously got a very special place in everybody's heart, given the circumstances around his sort of initial survival and how he kind of came to be in this area. But it is amazing to kind of see how well he's done. You know, he's gone off on his own, and in a male-filled environment with in the likes of quarantine and Tingana and all of these things, the fact that he's in the condition that he's in is pretty spectacular. Now, it's a pity that there's just this one tree that's in the way at the moment, because that's certainly not helping at all. Now, I believe last week Tuesday was our last sighting, so it's almost a week ago. So he is looking good. It means he's obviously feeding well and doing his thing, which is fantastic news. Now, Ferg, I'm not sure we're in the right spot here, because this tree is definitely not in the area we need it to be. So as much as it's nice to see his eye, I think I've just got a little gap here that I think might be even better. Just hold on. Just got to try and find a way through it. Let me just get into this area here. Ladybird, you're wondering how he got that notch in his ear. Well, I'm not quite sure, to be honest. He probably was playing around with Shongile or Karula, and unfortunately managed to get himself a little nick on the face, or on the ear, should I say. So that's probably where it came from, but I'm not 100% sure, to be honest. It's part of being a leopard. What is that like? That's probably better, hey Ferg? Yes. That's much nicer. Not as bright sky behind as well. The sun is coming from the other way. But it's probably from when he was still around with Karula. He's had it for a long time. As long as I've kind of spent time here at Safari Live, he's had that little notch on his ear, and so probably from Shongile or Karula when they were playing, a little nick, or even a branch when they were going up and down trees. You find as little cubs sometimes they fall a little bit, and then a branch or a thorn like a buffalo thorn or a knob thorn just hooks in and just rips the little tip of the ear, and that's when you get those little notches on them. But he has had it for quite some time. It's one of the IDing features of little Hosana. But he is not so little anymore. I can't call him little anymore. He might be one of our young boys, but he's definitely not small. So GDH, you say maybe Hosana has come just to check out what's going on and to check out when the TV rehearsal and shows are, just to make sure that he's in prime condition and fit and ready and to make an appearance. Well, hopefully that is the case, GDH. It would be absolutely wonderful if little Hosana came and was part of the TV shows. He's such an incredible cat, and not only is he a beautiful cat, but he has got so much about him in terms of the way that he goes about his business. He's curious, he often is doing all kinds of fun things, and so he's great entertainment, and that's why it'll be really nice if he does make a TV appearance. He seems to like the TV because he was a big part of the TV shows last January, so hopefully we'll get a repeat performance from our young man. Right, while he hides his face away and makes it a little bit difficult for Ferg to film his eyes, let's send you all the way back to the Masai Mara and Taylor McCurdy with the big pachyderm roadblock.
Monday morning, I think it's Monday, morning traffic. Herd of elephants, but they're very kind because majority of the herd is actually moved off of the road already. Oh, that's a little elephant there, hey? You see those two? They almost look like, well, there's 3 elephants, but there's a really tiny one in the middle that I just spotted. Oh, so sweet. We'll see if they move off a bit further, but I won't be able to go too much closer now. Lots of big cows with lots of youngsters in here. I don't want to pressure them too much. I feel like they knew that I was coming this way, so they quite happily just detoured slightly, which is kind of them. We're just munching away. Craig and I have been driving around. We popped past that giraffe kill in a tree, but no leopard around. I had to go and see it for myself, as you can imagine. That's very cool. Never seen a giraffe in a tree before. I've seen one with its head above the trees. And then we've been trying to identify that bird most of the morning as well. There's a funny elephant with her tusks growing all sorts of directions. Oh, and then I forgot to tell you, the other day, it was the afternoon that I needed to be towed back to camp, and I saw an elephant, but unfortunately we couldn't end up doing it. It looked like Fang. It looked like the Kenyan version of Fang. Her tusks actually curved all the way back, not quite as big as Fang's tusks, because she's got massive tusks, but it was really quite cool to see a similar elephant. I didn't even get a picture because the car almost set alight, so we were too busy trying to disconnect the battery, which was a pity. So maybe we come across her again, because that would be quite cool to see 2 elephants with very similar tusk formations, and strange tusk formations, that is. So I shall keep an eye out for her over the next few days. Maybe this afternoon we'll go back into that area, and then I'll see if I can find her. But a little bit more than this one, that it actually curved all the way around and was turning back towards her chin. But very cool. Okay, there's a few that I've moved up the road. I'm up off the road. What is a road, Taylor? A road? What is that? I should have my own vocabulary. I just make up things all the time. And then, we don't know where the marsh breakaways have gone. They're also MIA. The last time we saw them, which was yesterday morning, they were within this vicinity, actually a little bit further up. And they're not in their usual spots, but I think maybe they've gone further into the forest to try and look for food. So we will go around and we'll take another road and down and off to the left, and then slowly start heading back towards the escarpment, and hopefully we come across those lions. Hi, girls. There we go. Isn't that cool? What are you guys feeding on? Are you eating the grass? No, you're eating some creeper that's growing on the ground. A few of them look like they've also been digging in the mud. Their tusks slightly covered with it. But no one's had a mud bath just yet. Are you heading to the marsh? No? It's hard to try and figure out where these eddies are going. I mean, I wasn't out yesterday afternoon, but the afternoon before that I didn't see many elephants in the marsh. So I wonder where they're feeding now. Perhaps there are more trees that are dropping fruit, and perhaps maybe that's what they've found and they're quite enjoying them. And that's quite sweet. Did you see that? Those two little elephants again that are just moving around there. The older one, the one on the left that you can see now, actually stopped, and it's like it was waiting for its cousin. You see, they always stick together, the youngsters. Play around with one another. But it's so peaceful. Always, when I'm feeling a little bit stressed, I think the best remedy really is just to come and sit with a herd of elephants and not even to say anything, just to watch them, listen to them eat. It's the most calming way. Well, you can watch them eat, you can watch them do all sorts of things, and it's quite funny. That sound of the munching is so amazing. I'm definitely going to miss the zebras around camp, and they actually haven't been around. I haven't heard any zebras chomping outside my tent for the last few days. Just the hyenas whooping. We're wondering where the olololos have gone to. There were lots of baboons barking last night and dogs barking up in the villages, so I hope they weren't being naughty and coming around camp again, although there are lots of zebra and eland and topi and giraffe and all sorts of things on the airstrip at the moment. There is an abundance of game up on top. And there isn't much down below anymore, because they're not going to be going for these elephants. I wouldn't imagine that they'd be going for these elephants. Although we see the leopards like the taste of giraffe up here, which is quite funny if you think about it. I believe you're all agreeing with me, saying that watching elephants is a great stress reliever, especially when the youngsters play. I mean, you can be in the most foul mood, but to watch young elephants push and shove each other and try and use their trunks and swing it around quite dramatically, you can't help but smile. I'd really like to be an elephant for a day. I think that would be so much fun, don't you? Look at that little one. What are you up to? Okay. Well, our traffic seems to be subsiding slightly now, so maybe we must take the opportunity. Take the gap. Little Mara maneuver between elephants. Hope we can find these lions now. I need to start finding my characters, and I think it would be quite nice to have the marsh breakaways, especially with those young cubs. They're so cute. I think it would be quite funny. So hopefully they go MIA now for a few days, and then they behave when TV comes around. Right, but Ralph is with another set of cute characters, one that we've all learned to love, and that's, of course, the hyenas. Let's go back across to him.
Thanks, Taylor. And yes, well, like I suspected, everybody, there's been all sorts of behavior going on around this piece of hide, which I think is from a hippo. I'm pretty sure it is. But all the little cubs seem to want to have a bite and have a go at it. But these two cubs that are feeding on it at the moment are obviously higher ranked than any of the others. So they keep coming over and they keep getting reprimanded and chased back down the burrow, or getting a little nip from the adult, who's also just helping to maintain watch here. Let's see what happens as this little one comes up and tries to sneakily just get a little bite there. Right, you see, very nervously, very sheepishly trying to do it. And those two having a nice old chew on that. And you can see the other ones want to have a bite, but they're quite nervous. Oop, there's a roly-poly. So there's so much going on, and look at him, he's just like, come on, let me have a bite. If you're not in the top of the pile, oh, you see there, not allowed. Only when the others are finished. Yeah, you see, that's it. You're not high enough in the hierarchy to be able to be eating with my youngsters. Fascinating. But it seems they can't help themselves because they can smell that hide there and they just desperately want to come over and have a little bite. You see how that head shaking as well? Also quite subordinate behavior, that little head shakes. Constantly reaffirming their place in the political system. And the other adults, they're lying down now. They've got the older youngsters that have now appeared, and they're now having a little drink there. They do breastfeed up until about 18 months, so it's very old for a predator. Not often you get any predators that go for that long. I think they're probably one of the longest, if not the longest, of all the predators. With the suckling from mummy, so they don't get weaned till a very ripe old age, but that does mean that they've had an excellent start and they should be fine from there. And that little cub is really testing his luck, her luck, I should probably say. Now, Scarlett, you want to know at what age can you tell the sex of a hyena? Scarlett, it's quite difficult even right through once they're adults as well, because both male and females have almost identical parts. It's just that the females they'll end up being bigger, and they also have bigger genitals. Male genitals at that. So it's quite difficult. The females obviously do get rather larger than the males. So once they're getting a little bit older, they do then start to show their size. And around a den site like this, there might be some very young males, but males would immediately be the very bottom of the pile. So there could be some male cubs, but there would definitely not be any male adults. They won't be allowed anywhere near to this den site. So you can definitely say that all of these adults here are females. But if you do have a look at their body parts, they look very much like males. The only thing that would tell you that it's a female is that she has a lot of mammary glands. But then she's got the penis and the scrotum as well. So it's not easy. But obviously there with the mammary glands, then it's quite clear, because the males, they'll have very small ones, obviously not really used. So that would be a little bit of a way for us to see in terms of the nipples and the swollen mammary glands. But other than that, it's rather difficult because of that. So we'll actually look more so at the social structure and the size of them and their behavior, and to try and attribute or decide whether it's a male or female. Is that difficult to tell between the sexes? Right, everybody, from this very interesting den site with the hyenas, I think it's time to send you on down to South Africa. And Steph, who's on foot, I'm sure he's got something very interesting to show you as well.
Those hyenas are always such good value for money, don't you think? I love watching baby hyenas, especially at a den. So there's been some very good memories here and in Kenya actually about these hyenas. You come to us while we're busy marveling at this fantastically shaped combretum. Now, this is known as a combretum savanna, where one of the predominant trees that you find out here are different species of combretum. Combretum comprise bush willows, leadwood, for instance, as well, also forms under the combretum, and they tend to be able to be quite resilient to being damaged by elephant. This combretum was quite obviously pushed over, more than likely by an elephant either digging out the roots or scratching itself on it, and it fell over, but rather than decline into nothingness, it's decided to grow up towards the sky again, and it's led to this fantastically shaped arch, which is out here. And it was just figuring out what made this arch when you came to us. It was that's the puzzle. So obviously, I think that the tree had been split here into a Y at a stage and fell down and rested on the ground. And at a point, a fire came and started underneath this tree and lit a portion of this wood. Now, we haven't had a fire at Djuma since I've started here. So this is way longer than it was my 4th Christmas here already. So 3.5 years. We haven't had a fire here of any significant portion. So this tree was then damaged by fire, which I think burnt away this one stump, but not before it had started to grow out these new arms. How the tree does this is quite interesting. In each plant cell, there are I don't even know what to call them, but there are things inside the cell which are heavy, and they then go to the bottom of the cell. So as the tree falls over and the cell loses its orientation where it was growing from, these things inside the cell will shift to the bottom, and from where they are placed, the roots will grow, and exactly opposite, the branches will grow. So roots would grow and the tree would grow from that. So it doesn't matter what the orientation is of that cell, the tree will always find a way to grow up to the sky like this one did. Quite interesting, eh? All right, we're going to be sending you all the way back to Kenya, where Taylor's managed to find something that she enjoys very, very much, and I'm sure she's looking forward to showing you exactly what they are.
Hiding in the grass, being naughty. Yes, I'm talking about the 3 of you. I've only seen 3 of the jackal pups. The 4th one, I'm sure, is just tucked away somewhere. And it's a pity that they're so far off the road. Now, Craig says that they're hunting buffalo this morning. I definitely think so. Can you imagine, with all the weird and wonderful things, it wouldn't surprise me if one day a group of jackals took down a buffalo. Of course, that's absolutely ridiculous. That would not be possible. Even if I think a buffalo was missing a few legs, the jackals wouldn't be able to successfully take it down. But they're keeping each other entertained. It looked like they were chewing on one another. And I suspect that they've been running around quite a bit. What I am excited to do over the next few days is we start to spend nights out again. I'd like to come and follow these guys. Unfortunately, they're in a non-off-roading area, so I can't go chasing after them. But I'd love to see what they get up to. I mean, most of the time we've seen them hunting grasshoppers during the day. But now they're starting to behave more and more like adults. We sort of see them when they're most active early in the morning. And then the last time I saw them, and they came running around the car, they then went and rested and they slept fast asleep. And we came back an hour later and they were still fast asleep in the grass. So they're behaving more and more like the adults now, which kind of makes me a little bit sad that they're growing up. But it's nice to see that they're all still around. I'm pretty sure the 4th one is there as well. And unless maybe they're going to use the buffalo as protection. I don't think jackals and buffalo have too many problems with one another. But these guys are quite brave, though. I've seen them, running around elephants' feet. Now we've got them with a buffalo. There's another one. So there's the 3. Where is the 4th one gone? I love watching these fluff balls. No, I think they are getting ready to settle in now. Ivy, you said that you think the jackals are my favorite. Elephants are actually my favorite animal, but after spending so much time with these the Furtastic 4, is that what we called them? Or flapjacks? Flatjacks. I can't remember now. Anyways, we had some cool names for them. They've really grown on me. Like I said, this is the first time I've ever really been able to watch jackals grow up, and seeing them at the den, seeing them playing, seeing them being fed by the adults. I've also never seen jackals regurgitate before. We got to see that the other day. I think we did have that live. That was pretty spectacular as well. And watching them hunt grasshoppers, they're just getting so mature now. Now, Ashlyn, you're wondering if these jackals will all stay together once the parents kick them out. No, they'll most likely separate and go their own way. Maybe they'll hang around with one another for a little bit longer, but they'll slowly start to disperse and go off on their own. They'll eventually find a mate. Remember, jackals are monogamous, and then they'll live out their lives together. I don't think they'll go too far away from home. They don't have particularly big territories. There are lots and lots of jackals out here as well. So I would only imagine that there are a couple of square kilometers. So who knows? Maybe we're able to continue following their story. What we must try and do then is, I have no idea how on earth you would identify a jackal, because they don't have spots. but I suppose we could see if they've got any patterns or any notches on their ears. We'll have to wait until they're close around the car. Although, I feel like we've got enough screenshots of them being so close around the car. Maybe we can try and identify them, but it is going to be quite tricky. But it was really, really nice to see them go off. Can you imagine? The whole circle of life with the jackals. I'd love for them to feature on our next show, wouldn't you? How special would that be on Nat Geo? That would be amazing. Now, Anna Marie, you said you love how cheeky the jackals are around the big cats and their kills. Me too. Especially when they run up and bite a lion on the tail. That's hysterical. They're really bold for such small creatures. Look, they kind of just say hidden under the radar. What are you doing there? They're digging and then they're jumping on one another and biting. I would just love to know exactly how old they are. That would also be really cool. It's virtually impossible to know, though. Now, Jim, you're wondering if jackals are related to anything like coyotes or foxes. I suppose they're distant cousins. Remember, jackals, coyotes, they're all descendants of wolves, I suppose. What? Long time ago, though. Long time ago. They're so cool. They don't even care about the buffalo. The buffalo don't care about them. And my favorite thing about them, though, is remember that sighting we had? It was pretty much in the same spot. They were just a little bit further to the north of where we are now. And we had the marsh breakaways. And they were actually just sitting. I'll just point out to you, where is that termite mound? You don't have to look at it, but the termite mound over there, this is where we were. So the lions, the marsh breakaways was sitting up there. It was the most beautiful day. It was when I did it about an hour and a half solo or so, and you had to listen to me talk for all that time. And the jackals were barking, and they were quite young. It must have been about a month and a half, 2 months ago now, and they were barking away at those lions. I really enjoyed that, and I hadn't heard jackals vocalizing so much. Obviously, in the Eastern Cape, we used to hear them howling a lot, that or whining, screaming. They make a strange noise, but to hear them bark like that was pretty cool. And I'm definitely been hearing a lot more of that out here in the Mara, is them alarming at other predators, which is quite nice. So not only are the birds or the herbivores, alarming when they see a predator, but the smaller ones, like the jackals, can also help us in trying to find some of the bigger cats. What are they up to now? Let me actually get my binoculars out. Let me see if I can see where the fourth one is. I think, like I said, they're getting to that point where they're going to settle down now for the day. This afternoon we'll come back past here. Whether we'll be able to see the tops of their ears sticking out of the grass, I'm not so sure, but we can give it a bash. They're playing around with one another. That's so cute. They are so precious. Right, but I think we shall leave our jackals and we will return this afternoon to see if they wake up and put on a show. Noel, however, has got some lions who seem to be full of beans.
We do have some lions, but right now we have a beautiful battleur that Gert has got on screen, and then of course a tree comes in the way, but we'll see if maybe it comes back. It has warmed up a little bit, so the hot air is rising off the ground, creating these thermals in a sort of vortex manner. Sorry, my finger got in the way there. And that's what that battleur is busy doing, and looking possibly for some food to eat. And then our lions really haven't moved too much at all. We've got another vehicle that's joined us in the sighting to come and have a look. But everybody is pretty out for the count. I don't think that they're going to move too much today unless something comes close enough for them to hunt. And then I believe Tundi has popped up again. She's a little bit farther south from where we are, but it does not seem as if she's moving in our direction. And the wind is blowing, so I don't think that if she does keep going where she's going, that these lions will smell her, which is a good thing. And then, that's the update I wanted to give you all. There was 4 cheetah that were just found on Torchwood, which is east of us, and they're moving south. So I'm really hoping that they pop up around Chitwa area for us to maybe view later today. That would be absolutely excellent. The last cheetah we saw was that injured male with Tristan at Twin Dams. So it would be fantastic if those 4 pop up and we can get a view of them. Then we will have had our cat trifecta for the day today, on a Monday, nonetheless. So of the 8 big cats in the world, Africa has 3 of them. The lions, which you can see here, leopard, which you saw earlier with Tristan, and then again with Tristan, and also with Ralph. And then, of course, the cheetah, which we haven't seen yet today in the Mara, and of course we haven't seen them here. But it would be great if we can get them at either place. So lions are the largest of the 3 big cats that we have here. And their hunting style, although it doesn't look like they do much work at the moment as they're being so energy efficient, hashtag not lazy, they smell and then they stalk, or they see and then they stalk, and then they try to get as close as possible and then do a bit of running and sort of pounce on their prey. Leopards have a similar fashion of hunting. Cheetahs will do that, but cheetahs also like to use their speed and run down their prey. Now the hyenas that Ralph was with earlier, they also can run quickly, but not as quick as a cheetah. They do maybe about 40-45 kilometers an hour, and but they are built for endurance, so they'll run and they'll run and they'll run and they'll run, and they run their prey down that way. The prey tires out before they do. Now hyenas hunt, but they also scavenge. Lions are the same. So lions will hunt, but if lions come across something that's already dead, they'll definitely scavenge off of that kill, no problem. I've also seen leopard doing that. I've seen cheetah doing it less frequently. Lorna, you would like to know how many lion prides make Africa their home. Did I hear that correctly, Lou? So Lorna, I couldn't give you the number of prides across sub-Saharan Africa. There are, in the wild, there's roughly 20,000 lions. Some estimates say 25,000, but the estimates that are more conservative say 20,000. And yes, those could be broken up into hundreds of prides, as well as coalitions of males, and sometimes males just on their own. Oh, that little one's gone to nurse. And sometimes you'll find that it might be a female on her own, although it's a little bit more rare, but it does happen. Our little one has woken up from his nap and has decided to go and have a snack there by Mum, nursing away. So this little one will be eating meat now, but it also still nurses. It probably nurses a little bit more than it eats meat, but it's growing very quickly, and so it needs to supplement its growing body with lots of nutrients. And mother's milk is still very tightly packed with nutrients, highly packed with nutrients, I should say, rather. And then the meat that it's eating, it's also helping in growing those bones in that body. And this is also because little ones like this also have quite a high metabolism. So if at this age, at about 3 months, it was only eating meat, and the pride is only killing something, say, once a week, it would be very difficult for this little one to survive. So obviously that's how nature has devised the ability to not just grow them, but to keep them alive, is so that they nurse and eat meat. Tandi's cub will do the same sort of thing. She'll nurse and eat meat as well. Gizmo, what an interesting question. You would like to know if lions have antibacterial properties in their saliva. So Gizmo, I think maybe you're thinking along the lines of eating rotting meat and sort of getting sort of those things in their mouth and then also in their digestion. Gizmo, I can't give you 100% answer on that. I don't know if maybe Tristan or someone else knows. Also, maybe for the cleaning and grooming, you're thinking antibacterial properties. I would assume that they have some sort of high tolerance, not just within their bodies, but within their mouths, to the ability of grooming and cleaning off all that gunk and everything that gets around them. But I couldn't give you 100% scientific answer on that one. It's a really interesting thought, though. We might be, whoever we're going to next, Lou, I think maybe if we could ask them, they might know a little bit more about that than I do. Steph might actually know more about that than I do. Steph's brain is very large and retains information a lot better than mine. Now it's interesting, as it warms up and the clouds sort of start petering away, the area that they're lying in is actually going to start being quite sunlit, so they're going to have to start moving out of where they are and into some deeper shade. I don't think they're going to move too far, but it's definitely around in this area for today. So this afternoon, I think this is where we will start and see if they are still around. All right, let's go pick Steph's big brain while he's busy on bushwalk and see what he has to say about antibacterial properties in the saliva of lions.
I would almost say that given what I know about lion and bacteria in their saliva, that it was almost exactly the opposite. That they... a lion licking you, for instance, on an open wound, you stand a very big risk of being infected by some nasty bacteria. They've got bacteria all over the place. And I'm making this assumption because at a point, we helped a lion with a snare around his neck, and we darted the lion, and I was stroking the lion without a glove on, without a rubber glove on, and the vet at the time reprimanded me quite sternly and gave me a set of gloves to put on, and he said, you mustn't touch that. The parasite load on lions is terrible, and they transfer these parasites and this bacteria through their saliva and through licking each other. And within a very short space of time, it was about 20 minutes, I had the glove on my hand, and with the sweat and the heat on my hand, I got it was like it almost looked like a fungus or something. It was something on my hands that turned my palm black. And it stayed like that until I could rub my skin off. So a good 2 or 3 weeks, my palm was this discolored grey-black. And the vet said at the time it was because I had been touching the lion. And so I would almost say, to answer Noel's question, that the licking action that lions do is not really as an antibacterial thing. A lion's tongue is very rough, very similar to how a house cat's tongue is. And what they're doing when they're licking a wound or licking their fur is they're actually stripping away dead and infected skin and flesh and allowing fresh blood and fresh cells to come to the surface, which of course come with all their antibodies and everything else, and oxygenated blood, which is very important. So I would say that rather than as an antibacterial thing, it is to clean wounds, it is to keep wounds clean, and it is to keep each other clean, but more so from a sloughing off than an antibacterial thing. And that although lions are immune to their own bacteria to a degree, that they do carry massive amounts of bacteria and parasites, which they transfer through their saliva. So I wouldn't like to get cleaned by a lion whatsoever if I had a wound. That is for sure. Now we have some termites that were over here that were basically running around like crazy when we left here, and they've all disappeared, which is very bizarre. But anyway, that is the way it is. Now, Nancy, you've made a comment. It's a wonder that I'm still in one piece. So thank you for that comment, Nancy. It's not for lack of trying to feed myself to something, I promise. It does happen from time to time here. I don't think that we're going to make it. Especially elephant, buffalo, and lion in this place can be quite terrifying. Oh, look here. This is actually quite interesting. So, baboon spiders, when a baboon spider female, when she has babies, the babies are born in the bottom of her tunnel, and the babies then mature, and as they leave their natal den, they just go and dig the first set of holes around mom's den. As they get bigger, they move a little bit further and a little bit further. Males eventually move off and start wandering. Females by that stage have gotten far enough away from their mother's hole that when they do sink their own tunnel, that there's enough food around there to keep them going. Because once they turn full adult, a baboon spider female loses the ability to redig a new hole. They shed off the tool that they're born with to allow them to dig a new hole. And so for years, and I'm talking about 25 to 35 years, they'll live in the same hole, which is why it's so bad to dig up baboon spiders. Because if you dig it up and you look at her and then you let her go again and expect her to dig a new hole, she won't be able to. And she becomes big and cumbersome and exposed, and she'll be killed by something. But what is quite interesting here is that in this area, we've got that in-between stage. This here is the hole of an immature I can't remember whether it's the horned baboon spider or the golden baboon spider, the golden brown baboon spider that has the raised tunnel. But that's to stop water from running inside there, and they thatch the entrance of their tunnel. And then right here, and then there next to you, you've got another one over there. So this is the adolescent baboon spiders. And if we poke around here, I'm sure we'll find a couple of dozen more. And we'll find mom's hole. So it's good to know that this is the next generation of baboon spiders. Right, we're going to be sending you over to Tristan, who's still with Hosana for the last few minutes of the show.
We are still with Hosana, and he is ever so beautiful. He's been sitting regally and was posing, and then now he's decided to turn his face away, unfortunately, but he'll hopefully turn back at us and have a little look at us. There we go. Look at that. Isn't that just spectacular? Look how broad his shoulders have gotten, and his neck. He is looking absolutely beautiful at the moment. He really is looking in good condition. And so he woke up because of some impalas that went away, but they've kind of run south, unfortunately, back into Little Gari. But it is that time of the day where we start having to head back for breakfast. It's been an absolutely wonderful morning. There's been so much from the Mara and from Djuma that it's really difficult to recap on all of it. But at least Hosana has been a wonderful way to finish, and combined with Thandi and Cub and the Nkuhumas and the male leopard in Mara, it's just been the most spectacular morning, that's for sure. I've thoroughly enjoyed myself, and hopefully all of you enjoyed it too. So from myself and all the other presenters this morning, and Louise and FC, we'll see you all this afternoon on Sunset Safari.